What is going on? This is Altone and welcome to another fantastic day. I had to slap my logo on the bottom, but I do have the DJI Mini 2 and I purchased it a couple of days ago. You probably saw the unboxing already, but I'm telling you, I've loved this thing. Now, everybody and their mother is actually putting out the specs on this particular drone, but I'm just going to give you quickly as possible some of my thoughts and how much I absolutely love this as my very first drone. So the first thing, of course, is you do know, and we're not going to go into all of the other stuff. DJI has a ton of different drones, and there are a bunch of different manufacturers out there that sell drones. DJI just happens to be the one that everybody really speaks to and thinks highly of, and I'm telling you, this as a product is fantastic. It's absolutely awesome. So as a channel where it's all about sharing your experience, sharing your testimony, sharing your story on social media, is this something that you need? Is it something that I needed? Absolutely not. Didn't need it at all. Will it add some possible value to my my videos in the future? I believe it will. As you begin to watch some of the video that I've taken with this already, I'm telling you, it's just so beautiful. Most of what I've shot in here was 4K at 24 frames per second, but it's absolutely fantastic. So these are a couple of things that I've learned as I started using this particular drone. First of all, something I didn't know, these batteries have to be activated. So as you start to charge them, once you first take this out of the box, the best thing to do is go ahead and plug it in, put all the batteries. This is the Fly More kit. I'm sure you know that already. Take all the batteries and put them into the charger and allow them to charge. That should activate all three batteries. If you are going to get the DJI insurance, you got 48 hours to do it from the time that you activate the drone. So my advice is, if you're going to do that, go ahead and go to DJI's website and get the insurance, the DJI insurance on the drone then, before you even activate it. Second thing, it has three batteries. Flying for 30, 40, 50 minutes in different areas and all that kind of stuff. I've only ever used one battery. I have not gotten a battery indication light on it yet, but that does not mean that I'm flying for a full 30 minutes. I may not be. And I've flown in some pretty harsh winds, so I think one of these batteries almost got down to zero, and that was it. After you purchase it, when you go out to fly the first time, you want to make sure that you have a Wi-Fi signal, at least a signal on your phone, because normally what I've noticed is every time I use one of these batteries for the first time, there is a firmware update that it pushes. Those firmware updates take anywhere from around about 5 minutes. It could possibly take a little bit longer if you don't have a very good signal. But you want to make sure that you do that. So I would actually suggest at home, before you actually take it out for flight, put each battery in, allow them to update. One of these batteries right now has not been updated yet, and I don't know which one. So if you look, right now I have them numbered. I used a permanent marker and I numbered them 1, 2, and 3. I did that on purpose so that I could rotate the batteries out. That's just a thing that I do, but that way I can rotate the batteries out and make sure that I'm using each battery and not just using one battery to death and the other two are not getting any use out of them. One of the other things that I want to tell you and make sure that you are aware of, and everybody's talking about this particular drone has no accident avoidance. I say accident avoidance. It doesn't detect anything around it. You're going to have to make sure that you don't run it into stuff. The only protection that this drone has is you being sensible with it. So if this is your first drone, you're not familiar with flying drones, what you want to do is make sure that you do fly in a area that has plenty of space, and you want to take off essentially from the center of that space. Now, this drone picks up satellites. This thing, once it launches, does not move. I've had some pretty strong winds, gusts, and whatnot, and it pretty much stayed in the same spot. Blew my mind. I couldn't believe it. But it does. You don't have to worry about taking off and it just starting to jump around and you having to make sure it doesn't drift off and go any place that it shouldn't go. But I will tell you this. You still want to take your time. You know that the remote has 3 modes on it. Put it in Cine Mode and leave it there, at least for your first flight. Fly forward most of the time. I watch a lot of potato jet videos. You might want to check him out. One of the tips that he said was continue to move forward. You can pretty much avoid obstacles. Because this doesn't have obstacle avoidance in it, that's what you're going to want to do. And as you start to get used to it, you can start to do other things. Last thing, and you see that I've done quite a bit of recording over the lake here where I live at. One of the things I noticed when it was really windy is the drone would drop about a foot of altitude every now and then based on the wind gusts. You have to understand that this drone is like a helicopter or like any other aircraft. If you have ever been in a plane and you get turbulence and all that kind of stuff, and you feel like the plane drops a couple of 100 feet, it's because of the wind gusts. And there is some science behind what keeps this thing in the air. I used to study it. I loved that kind of stuff. And I worked on helicopters when I was in the military, but not the flight systems, but I worked on the weapon systems. So what you want to do is understand that is a possibility that your drone, based on the wind conditions, could elevate quickly or drop quickly. Why do you need to know that? I was flying over water, which a lot of people like to do is they like to get close to the ground and do those nice flying straight shots because it looks so good. I did a couple that I'll share, but I made sure I had about 5 feet between the surface of the water and my drone. So if it did drop, it was only going to drop down to 4 feet versus dropping from 1 foot right smacking into the water, because you just don't want to do that. These things are not waterproof. So these are some of the things that I noticed on my first couple of flights. Like I said, I love this thing. Absolutely love it. It's going to be awesome having fun and flying around with it. Even if you live in a wooded area the way I do, you can have some fun flying around. Stay away from people's homes, and people's windows. I don't want anybody attacking your drone because you're invading their privacy. You can, even if you live in a wooded area, enjoy flying this drone. Like I do, because you just have to take your time. Until you get really good and really used to avoiding obstacles, then you take your time. The other thing that you want to think about is this, the return to home. If you're flying really low and you hit the return to home button, your drone is going to go up to the level of the return to home. To the height that you set for it to return to home. So, and it does that, of course, so it doesn't hit any trees and all that kind of stuff. You want to be careful with that, because if you just happen to be up underneath a tree and you hit return to home, your drone is going to shoot straight up. It has no sensors to tell it there's something above it, so it's going to run into a tree. Make sure before you hit return to home that your drone has nothing above it, that it's in a clearing. And then the last thing, of course, is when you hit return to home, remember, again, it's going to go straight up. If you're only 5 feet off the ground and you hit return to home, your drone is just going to shoot straight up in the air to that altitude, and it's going to come to you, and it's going to come down. If you took off, if your home location set by the GPS in your drone is underneath a tree, when it starts to descend, when it gets back to its home location, and this one is not quite as accurate as some of the other DJI drones, it's going to get you within 5 feet of where it took off at. But if your descent is, if where you took off is underneath a tree, when it starts to come down, it does have sensors on the bottom. There are 2 little sensors here on the bottom, so it may not hit something coming down. It may not, but you still want to be aware of that, because the last thing that you want to do, I'm crazy about electronics. I care so much about my electronics, so I baby them. I take tons of care. My lights, everything that you see in here, I keep dust covers on, and when I'm not using it, I put it away. So you want to be very careful when you have it returning to you that you're not returning underneath a tree. Essentially, I would hit return to home, knowing that it's in a clearing so it can go up to that return to home altitude and then start coming back to you. And when I see it, physically see it, I would stop the return to home and then guide it back in myself carefully. That way you know that it's not going to hit anything. So, I mean, this... I keep hitting that. One of the things, there's so many different people that are telling you so much stuff about the drones. There's many people who have flown drones, so many, they've flown drones since they've been available, before we had restrictions on what we could fly and where and all this kind of stuff. There's so many different people that have so many videos on all of this information. What I wanted to give you is from the perspective of a new owner, new drone flyer, new drone owner, of what to expect and some of the things that you want to look out for. And I did not know. And the very last thing that I want to share with you is this. It's easy to find how to turn this thing on, how to turn your drone on, but they do not tell you how to turn it off. It took forever for me to try to determine how to turn this bad boy off. So the very same action that you use on the power button to turn it on is the action that you will use on the power button to turn it off. You hit it one time and hold. You watch the lights will go down, you take your finger off, and then it will shut down. Same thing for the remote. It will do the same thing for both. This is just an awesome, awesome, awesome drone. It really is. You can't beat it. You cannot beat it. I've got another drone that will cost about $100, and it drifts all over the place. When you take off, you better be watching it, because if there's a slight gust of wind, it's possibly going to run into something, or it's just going to drift off. And there's a couple of times that the wind was just strong enough that I could not get it back to me. I just couldn't. And so I had to keep fighting it to try to get it back, or I had to just have it go ahead and hit the ground. And as soon as it hit the ground, it was shut off. That way I wouldn't lose it or have it go into somebody's yard or something. So just wanted to share that with you. And that first takeoff, I ran it into a tree. So it is still good. I can still use it. I'm going to use it to play around with and test, because it doesn't have the GPS tracking and whatnot that this one does. And it helped me get a little bit more used to keeping track of where my drone is and how to fly it. But this bad boy, if you've never had a drone before, this one will absolutely work for you. And if you're careful with it, you'll be fine. You will learn and you will grow using this drone. So for a first-time flyer, first drone owner, pretty much, I highly, 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 highly recommend this drone. If you can afford it. Do you need it? No, you do not. But if you're going to buy one, then I definitely recommend this drone. I definitely recommend it. So I hope this helped you in some way. I know this video is a little bit long, but I look forward to doing some more video for you. If you have any questions for me specifically, let me know. I would love to, I'd absolutely love to share more about this DJI Mini 2. I'd love to share more with you on it and more of my experience. So if you have any specific questions, just let me know, and I look forward to sharing that with you and seeing you again in the next video. Make sure you check the description. I'll have a link down there. Any links that you click on here or elsewhere, any of my other channels, will absolutely help to grow what I'm doing here. And I really do appreciate it. Doesn't cost you a thing. So hit the subscribe button, and I look forward to talking to you in the next video.